All right, ladies and gentlemen, we call the meeting to order.
I do.
6 o'clock. June 9th, it's our regular council meeting. Roll call, Keith Warney.
Present.
Bill Toffee. Here. Brett Degnan, present. Brody Bjornson here. Bill Hodge.
Present.
Mike Betlin, present. We also have the Greenwood Connections Board here for our joint session. Vicki Powers.
Yes.
Lori Murphy. Here. Cindy Peterson. Here. And who's the other? Linda Kuhlman, she's not here. All right, we'll move on to the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the approval of the agenda, there was a couple changes.
Yes, sir. Under consent agenda J, I'd like that stricken. We do not have the official documents from the attorney. Which also would be under new business B, TIF transfer resolution, that also needs to be stricken.
This one?
New business B.
I'd like to add under liquor store department report on B for setting a date and time for a committee meeting for that. Anybody else have anything to change? Or ask for a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Put the same sign. And does approve those amendments. Public forum, do we have any other people signed in?
No, sir.
Okay. Well,
For those of you that I've not met before, I'm Ralph Kumpula with Sound of Spirit Lake. We want to give you a huge thank you, first of all, for being our fiscal agent and for storing our stage in the winter and the help that you give us. That's great. We thank you for that. A brief history, since many of you were, or some of you were not on council back in 2011, when the council back then contracted with the University of Minnesota Business Extension. And they did, the business extension did a survey of businesses, local businesses. As a result of that, a huge percentage of those respondents said that there weren't enough cultural activities in Monaga. So that's where Sounds of Spirit Lake was born. It originally was called Monaga Music Night. We didn't think that really had a ring to it. So I think with Mark Applekoski that came up with the idea of Sounds of Spirit Lake. So that's where we started from. Well, I don't have this summer's poster ready, but it looked like this. This is the very first year that we had concerts, 2013. So this is what it looked like. Our logo, Sounds of Spirit Lake, was donated to us by a creative director of an ad agency in Chicago, Illinois, who had connections to Monaga because he spent a lot of summers here on the lake, on Spirit Lake, because his grandpa and grandma lived on Spirit Lake. So he did this free of charge for us. The website was designed for us free of charge as well. She has connections to Monaga because of that. So a lot of the stuff, we had no money to begin with, obviously. So those are free. At the beginning, we had Dominican Boyette, which is Boys of America. I happen to know one of the trumpet players there. They reduced their fee big time to come here to meet our fee. And they paid for their lead trumpeter flying from Washington, D.C. His name is Yari Villanueva, who he plays taps at Arlington Cemetery. He's not in the president's band, but he's up there, one of the bands. PR band, Park Rapids Community Band, which still opens our concert series. They came for next to nothing. Monroe Crossing came, and they have come every year. They came, they cut their performance fee big time because they understood what we're trying to do here. And then we had Ring of Kerry, a Celtic Irish group. cheap, and then we ran out of money, so we had homegrown musicians night was closed on our series, and it was harder than pulling teeth to get people to locally to come and do something. So that's a brief history. Our mission is to provide residents of a variety of music who otherwise could not attend either due to cost or distance. We also found that these concerts are a huge economic driver. It brings a lot of money to local businesses and organizations. So I'd like to introduce our committee members, our founding members, Monica Papaki, Peggy Tumpala, of course myself, Julia Livingston, Julie Isaacson, and not here because she has company from out of town is Karen Dexter, who is also our band announcer. I'm not sure if you know any of these people, but anyway, that's who we are. This year, our music series is going to cost just over $17,000. Only 25% of that is from grant funding. The remaining 75% is from local organizations, businesses, and free will donations. This year, we came up with this QR code for those people that may attend our concerts that don't have any money in their wallet, as in cash. They can scan this code and the money will go directly into the city's bank account, actually. The city, you are a fiscal agent. We can't get any grant funding unless we are a 503c nonprofit. We don't have that. The city is nonprofit, so therefore we're under your umbrella. This is the same code that you use for, not the same code, but the same company you use for paying water bills, I think. There's a fee to use this, but at least it's available. Our current concert schedule this year is we're starting out June 27th. They're Friday nights, June 27th, with the Park Rapids Area Community Band. Like they have every other year, they open our series. There are 5, I believe, members in the band from Minaga. Many are music educators, so it's a quality group. The second concert is July 4th. It's the Sean Johnson Big Band Experience. They have a huge following. We had them one other time, and there were a lot of people at that concert. Sean Johnson himself was the lead singer of Tonic Sofa. I don't know if you remember them, but they were here a few years ago too. And that year that they were here, their Christmas CD was the Walmart chain's #1 selling Christmas CD. Following them, then 1 week later is July 11th. That's Midsummer. Is Pure Country. They bill themselves as Minnesota's answer to Nashville's Grand Ole Opry. Then July 18th is Monroe Crossing. Again, they have a huge following. They've been here every year. They change their concert mix a bit, so it's fresh stuff every year, and some good classics too. We end the series with Pat Donahue and Friends on July 25th. Some of those members are the former Prairie Home Companion Band. Remember Garrison Keillor's public radio show? They're from that. So this year we have 3 Grammy Award winners coming here to our concerts. Chet Atkins, who's obviously a famous country western singer, he called Pat Monroe. Let me see what he called it. One of the country's best finger pickers in the country. So there you go. That's the concert series this year. And then we also have a bus come every year from Green Pine Acres Nursing Home. So we save room for them. But anyway, you gave me 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes are up. So there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have any questions?
Are you gonna be fully funded this year?
What's that?
Are you gonna be fully funded? You said you needed 17,000. 25% is gonna be grant money.
Right now, I think.
Yeah, we are fully booked. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And we give a shout out to the various clubs, the VFW and the Lions and the city and the CNC for their contributions as well, because Yeah, we don't have a way to raise funds other than put on good performances and hope the folks like them. It's a free will offering, but. And we check where people are coming from. People come from quite a ways to come in and watch this thing.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, we track, we have surveys at every concert asking the people that are here about where, the quality of music, all that stuff, what they recommend, what they would like to hear. Besides that, we asked for their home zip code, and we were astonished. But by far, the majority of the people that attend these concerts do not live here in Monaga. Although that was our original goal, was to provide music for the local residents. But it brings businesses in, it brings people into the local businesses is what it does. And it puts us on the map where, like I said, 3 Grammy award winners this year are coming here to Monaga, so.
It boosts the area. People might be looking around and say, well, I'm gonna find a place that's buy a cabin or buy a home, move out of the city, get time to look for a retirement place. Gives us a heads up.
Again, thank you very much. I don't wanna, you have important business to do here tonight, so. Thanks.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Joint session with GWC board for the audit.
Yes, I probably would have said.
Ashley, can you hear us?
Ooh, not yet, man.
Yeah.
Next one.
Technology is always the most fun part.
You're an external speaker. Yeah.
Yes. Can you try one more time, please, Ashley?
Yes, is
There we
this
go.
better?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Getting better.
All right, got it. Awesome. Yeah, as I said earlier, I said the technology is always the most fun part, getting it all squared away. As many times as we do it, it always seems like it wants to wants to come in a little different. So thank you so much for having me tonight. I'll just go ahead and jump in and get started. My name is Ashley Brandt Judah. I'm a partner with Eide Bailey. And so I'm the one that was responsible for overseeing the 2024 financial audit for Greenwood Connections. And so audit went extremely well this year. So thank you so much to your team for all of the help. Went well last year, but of course, just being a first year, things took us a little bit of time, just more so on our end. But definitely smooth sailing this year. Like I said, really appreciate all of the help and getting things to us timely and helping us work through everything tonight, but also your management team to have a chance to, really go through them, just that type of thing. But really, we don't have any, we are done on our end. So procedures are done, no changes or anything like that. So essentially, you should have, and I can go ahead and I'll share my screen too as I'm going through the financials, but hopefully you have a copy of the financial statement. I guess I should have asked. I'm not sure if that was handed out as well. But you should have a financial statement and then also a governance letter. And so before we jump into the financial statements, we'll just touch very briefly on within that letter, we communicate any significant changes that have occurred during the current year, just some other standard communications. But the one thing that I did want to touch on is that's where we disclose any of the what we call corrected misstatements or audit adjustments that we proposed as part of the audit process. And the reason I bring that up is I think it's always important to just know maybe what has changed from when you saw a preliminary financial statement until that audited statement today. And so we did have a few adjusting journal entries that we proposed, but the types of things that we propose them for are the types of things that I would expect you may be getting some assistance with your auditor or from your auditors on. So one is recording the pension calculations. Those are always a bit challenging, and plus we have to wait for the information and get all that from the state of Minnesota. So we had an entry related to that, which was the largest one. Also assisted with some of your grant recording, just because some of that, again, it's a bit unusual when you receive the funds and when you spend them, and just getting all that flowed through correctly. And then also to record some additional accrued interest on your employee rent retention credit receivable, which again is a very common one that we assist with just based on the unusual nature of the item. But when that was all said and done, after we proposed the entries that we did increase the nursing home's net position by 455,800. So the reason I bring that up is, again, just as we're going through the financials, keep that in mind that we did propose an increase there, so things will look the positive, or the bottom line will be a bit more positive than you may have seen before had you seen the previous financial statements. Along those same lines, as far as deficiencies that we report as part of the audit process, essentially as part of an audit process, we evaluate an organization's internal control, not for the purpose of giving an opinion, but really just to help design our audit procedures. But that being said, if we do identify any deficiencies, we are required to report those to you. The state of Minnesota also does require us to do what's called a Minnesota compliance audit. So there's just some additional procedures, that type of thing, that we do as well. And so as far as deficiencies identified, so several that are extremely common and ones that we would have identified and reported to in the past. The first one is related to the fact that we do, as auditors, prepare the full set of financial statements for you. Again, extremely common. And then also that we did prepare some of those and propose some of those adjusting journal entries that I noted as well. The other one is related to the fact that you, as a smaller organization, do have what's considered to be a limited segregation of duties within your accounting and your finance team. Again, for organizations of your size, that's very common because it's just oftentimes not financially feasible to hire the full team to have everything perfectly separated. So those are really the financial statement pieces that we identified and are required to report to you. And then we did have one, what I would consider a minor Minnesota compliance finding. And the reason why I say minor is that it was so small that for financial reporting, we would have never even reported it. But that Minnesota compliance is just a little bit different, a little bit lower threshold there. And that was just related to the fact that right as of year end, you have a cash collateralization requirement on all of your cash that's held at the banks. And for one bank, you were just slightly under, it was about $27,000, which is how the calculation worked out at the end of the year. So again, not something I would consider significant. For financial reporting, we wouldn't have even been required to report it, but we do have that in there just because of those Minnesota compliance procedures that are required. All right, so any questions on any of just the general audit type things before I jump in and do a quick overview of the financial statement? Right, just going to go ahead here and share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can see that okay. We just have the draft of the financial statement. At the beginning of this report here, you'll also see there's an independent auditor's report, which is essentially the true audit report or audit opinion that we give. And we will be giving what we consider to be an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, which means similar to what we gave you last year and also the best opinion that we can give on the financials. But as you'll see here, we'll go ahead and start out with your statements of net position. And so this is the assets and the deferred outflows side of essentially your statement of net position. And you can see here that we have a comparison 2024 to the prior year of 2023. So when we take a look here, you can see your total assets and deferred outflows of resources at the end of 2024 were $15,601,432. So had an increase there in your total asset, or excuse me, increase there of about $637,000. And really where most of that came in, when we're just taking a look at, what changed during the year. So we can see very top line there, you had a nice increase in your cash and cash equivalents. And once we take a look more at the operations side, you'll see really why that is. A lot of that was just the positive operations that you were able to generate this year. Other change that I just wanted to point out was way down, go way from the top, we go way down here to the bottom. And that's in the deferred outflows of resources, the pension related deferred outflows. And so really what this is this is just when the pension actuary for the state goes through, they essentially will identify any actuarial assumption changes, different things like that, that they then want you to put into your financial statements that you then defer over a certain number of years. So depending on what's going on with actuarial changes, changes in your investment, that number will tend, or your liability, that number will tend to fluctuate. So as we see on the next page, you'll see you had a significant change in the pension liability as well. Right. No other major changes really on the asset side, so I'll just go ahead and keep going. And again, please feel free if you have any questions to jump in. All right, so next page here we have the liabilities, deferred inflows deferred inflows of resources and net position. And so we'll go ahead and take first section here is your total liabilities and deferred inflows. So you can see for 2024 was 7,953,261. So had a nice decrease there in that liabilities and the deferred inflows there. That was about $1,187,000. And really where the largest portion of that came in, and what I alluded to on the previous page was you can see that you had a large change here in your net pension liability. So it went from the over 2.9 million down to about the 1.9 million. And so one thing to keep in mind here is that the pension is actually essentially being valued almost about a year. Well, actually it's 6 months behind. And so that's really why from a pension standpoint too, if we think going back, changes in the market, what would have happened within that time period, the investments were doing a lot better. So we are seeing that for that time frame, a lot of the pension liabilities go down, just as the pension investments are doing better, but may see that, you know, that'll kind of ebb and flow as we have changes. But for now, at the end of 2024, showing that decrease in the pension liability. Only other item, you know, when we're looking at liabilities that had a more significant change was this refundable advance line item. So did want to point this out since this is a bit of an unusual item. And so this is actually related to funds that you received from the state of Minnesota for various grants that you had not yet spent. And so that's one of those where we assisted with that journal entry for you at the end of the year. And you can see now that that's decreased as more of those funds have been spent. And then you can see down here, your total net position for the year was 7,648,171. And nice increase there from 2023. And we'll go ahead and take a look at that on the next page. All right, so next is your statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position, which is just a really long way to say your income statement, essentially. And so a few different sections here that we'll take a look at. Just bring that up just a little bit so you can put on the full page. So very first section that we'll take a look at the top is your total operating revenues. So total operating revenues for the year ended December 31st, 2024 were $10,158,347. So had a nice increase there in your operating revenue is about $549,000 or about 5.7%. When we take a look down at your operating expenses, you can see their operating expenses for the year were $8,996,926. And so it did have an increase in your expenses, about $190,000, but that was only about a 2.2% increase overall. When we look at the expenses, just some of the areas that had more significant changes that I just wanted to point out. One was within the nursing there. So you can see the nursing overall did have an increase about $257,000, and a lot of that was just related to salaries and salary types of increases that you're doing, that type of thing. Other one that I wanted to point out that might seem a little bit unusual since normally we see these go up as salaries and things go up, but the payroll taxes and employee benefits here, you can see that that actually went down from about 1.4 million down to the 1.286. this is where some of those pension liabilities changes are going through. So you actually had a positive adjustment that was then offsetting some of the expense. So just something to keep in mind if it feels weird or unusual that went down, really related to that adjustment that happened. Next section here, once we get down, you can see your total operating income then for the year was $1,161,421. Then had some non-operating income as well. That was the $489,244. Primarily what's in there is your interest income. That other is actually mostly that grant funding that we talked about as that revenue is being recognized. And really where you had the decrease from the previous year was last year you had the large employee retention credit contribution that was being recorded there. Whereas now you still have a little bit of ERC, which is actually that ERC interest that I mentioned earlier. Then had the 173,000 of some capital contributions that you recorded. So by that, contributions that were received that were used for capital, which essentially brings you to the total change in net position, or essentially your total net income for the year of the 1,823,720. Okay. I'm just going to do a very high level. This would be the last statement here, the statement of cash flows. And so you can see here, there's 4 different sections. So I always just like to point out in general, what are we seeing here? And so the first one here, your net cash from operating activities, very important. That's the 1,236,000. This number is always important to look at because this is saying from what we are just truly doing, our true operations, are we generating positive cash flow? And yes, you are doing that. Did also have some outflows as well, primarily what we call the capital and capital related financing, which is purchases of capital assets, payment of debt, any of those types of things. But overall did still have the positive increase in cash for the year of the 586,000. All right, everything else, there's more information in the statements. Don't worry, I won't go through all of them in detail. We'd be here for a while. But most of that is just footnotes that back up the numbers in the front. So it's something if you're going through, just looking for some information that's there. But I won't actually go through them, but would be happy to answer any questions if anyone does have any on the footnotes. Or any other questions on anything else. I know I went through some of that kind of quick.
I got one quick question for you. I know the Greenwood Connections is looking at a possible expansion or addition to the facility. Is there enough net cash embedded in our financial statement that we could possibly pull some of that money out of there to help finance an addition? Or are you qualified to answer that question?
Yeah, so in taking a look at, I actually did a quick calculation of your days cash on hand, days cash including investments. I'm going to see. I did this right before the meeting. We'll see if I wrote it down or if I kept it in my spreadsheet. I believe you were at like 240 or something like that with the investment piece as well. So I would say certainly I think you have some leeway there. Usually we recommend for days cash on hand, not wanting to go below like 120. That can of course depend on the situation. But what I would really recommend for you is if it's something that you're starting to think, okay, maybe we'd like to do something. What does this look like? I would really recommend doing a debt capacity study, and that's certainly something we could assist you with, which goes into a little bit more detail on, what could you handle for debt with your current cash flow, or if that cash flow would increase given a project. But then that looks at all of that too, and then make sure, because a lot of times if you are planning to finance a piece of it, depending on who you finance with, they'll have certain, they might have like a debt service coverage ratio you need to meet or something like that. So all of that would then be factored in. Okay, how much can you spend? Then how much can you finance and all of that. So I think, yeah, great question. And certainly something that would be a good first step if that's a road that you're hoping to go down, because it really helps clarify a lot of that of, you know, what outlays would we have, or what would we have the ability to finance?
Anybody else have anything? Well, looks like we've got all our questions answered.
All right, well, thank you all so much, and like I said, just really appreciate the entire group there. It was a very smooth process and really great team process, so we really appreciate that.
Thanks for reporting.
Yes, thank you much.
Then what do we need to do? We need to accept the audit report, I believe.
Yeah, but there needs to be a motion.
Make a motion to for the audit report.
Second,
Second.
Bill. Any discussion?
What did she, that last thing that she went to her and asked, what was it that she called that? Was it like a debt,
A debt capacity study.
okay, all right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion carries 5-0.
You have to have the joint.
Oh, yes, we should actually. We should have this.
She was separate. She doesn't have, calls for a motion on that. Well, I need to call from our board, yeah, from everybody, for the board, for our board, yeah. So do we have a motion to accept the audit as you saw it? Larry? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carried.
Should take care of the joint session now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jen, function. Never really. I don't know, man. I'm not gonna turn it. It's done. Yeah, please. It's a shame.
Now, we'll move on to consent agenda.
There were, changes on, page 2, the police department committee meeting minutes. There was a typo in the amount. It's not 84,000, it's 8,400 in attorney fees. In public works committee meetings, we have Councilmember Netland credited as speaking when it was actually Brian Sukup. That has been annotated.
All of the areas on the public works where I was cited.
Yes.
There was just 2 spots, I believe, was 3, there was a third one. Got the 2. There's 2 on page 1 of 3 and 1 on page 2 of 3. Second paragraph from the top. Like that. On page 1?
Yeah, it's, second paragraph towards the end there on the right-hand side.
There's 2 bottom paragraphs on page 1, Jody, and then second paragraph on page 2. No, page 1. And I don't know, on the May 12th. This was, do you read this after it's prepared for?
Yes, yes, I do.
Cause I read this where, Derwin had requested adding an item to new business under job performance eval. And the statement is that Brett confirmed he would reach out to schedule this.
Yes, reach out, reach out to Laura and just let her know, and make sure all the correct eval forms were administered.
Or is that what that was referencing?
Yes, sir.
Oh, didn't make sense when I read it. And then on the May 20th special budget meeting on page 2, there's a statement that the council briefly discussed the beach program, including lifeguards and swimming instructors. They considered ways to structure the program and its fees, including potentially implementing a family maximum for swimming lessons fees. My understanding was we had a consensus of $75, but that's not stated.
We can state that.
Well, that'll be on our fee schedule when we start this program, correct?
Correct.
We want it in a minute, so.
Yeah, we did agree to $75 Matt family night. Anything else? There's nothing else. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. So moved.
Do we need special motion on H and I?
No, sir, we do not.
Oh, for temporary licenses?
Don't need them. It's covered in the, under the consent agenda.
All right.
Need a second?
All right.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Same sign. Motion carried. No public hearings. We see the commission minutes for the 2 planning and zoning meetings, it's informational. Should take us to new business.
I'm requesting the council just give me the formal go ahead to compensate Councilmember Netland for attending the Students of Character event. The only reason I ask is I understand there's been precedent to cover this event. Since I've been here, anytime we send council members somewhere, it's typically some kind of council consensus or a motion. I just want to formalize it, and the rest is up to you, council.
I would just like to add that precedent has been set that Mayor Olson and I attended in 2023. I drove. Mayor Olson and I attended in 2024. I drove. We represented the city of Monaga both times. Bill and I went in 2025 representing the city. I drove. And again, our name tags prepared by Sourcewell said our names with City of Monaga. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, anytime, our council members are ambassadors for the city of Monaga in situations like this here. I think in past precedents, we have reimbursed for mileage, and I don't see why we should deviate away from that. Especially when you're representing Monaga. I don't know if you run into people you have conversations with, or promoting the city of Monaga, or at least you're showing a presence that we have a we care about what's going
They
on.
had us sitting at separate tables, so we were visiting with different community members. I had a nice visit with the Wadena or Stearns County, not Stearns. County next door. Thank you, Crow Wing County Commissioner. Yeah, it was a good event to attend and have representation at. So I gotta say, those kids truly were kids of character.
So what do you want us to just approve? the-
Yeah, just approve it and,
Development into the future, or just, are you gonna bring this up each and every time, or would you wanna make a?
Well, we want to be careful. It isn't just people attending something they want to attend, you know what I mean? It can't be for any old thing. We gotta make sure we set something. That they're, like you said, an ambassador for the city going to an event or, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you're referring strictly to the students of character.
With this one.
I mean, we're gonna do that next year and the following year, or do we act on it each year? Do we read?
Well, we should either set a precedent that we're going to do this, or we should say we're going to look at it case by case, or, you know.
I just don't want to be in the position where Councilmember Warren Emy comes in and he went down to Des Moines for a conference and suddenly we have a $500 bill we gotta pay him. When, you know, nobody except myself and Councilmember Warren Emy know what happened.
Yes, I think we need to make sure these things come up that we say, yes, we're sending you as an ambassador or representative. Because we're talking about taxpayer dollars and we just need to be, we want to make sure we're using them wisely and it is for representation. You guys represented the city.
When is it normally held, Mike?
In
Is it like,
April of each year, or May of each year. Right at the end of the school year.
And if we're declaring like for precedent's sake, are we also like your illustration, you went to, what did you say, like a conference? Now, when you sent us away for training, say that's already,
Yeah.
And that's something that I put in the packet. That's something that's discussed with the council. There's full consensus. I'm not looking for a motion for every single thing, just,
so the trainings are given.
And
Yeah,
that
it's
in
more
fact
of
would be
things
covered
outside
under the Monaga travel policy.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So for this one, we should have a motion one way or another from somebody.
I would move that we allow the reimbursement for travel for this students of character event and any future student of character events need to have a consensus from the full council to cover all travel expenses. That's kind of wordy. Jody, you can kind of whittle it down if you want.
Yeah, it works.
It works.
We got a motion, do we get a second?
Second.
Now, do we have what is the total on the financial implication? What much we see?
No, I think, $100.
Or either that or mileage rate.
Is there discussion?
State, right? Federal, right?
Federal IRS.
70 cents a month.
This TIF documents for next month, or you resend those or what?
I would like you to hold on to them. The only thing that's gonna change on them are the dates.
We'll do that at the work session. If they did. There's stuff.
Yes.
Save some paper.
Okay, continuing on,
Is that a feedback?
yes, we're back up. We're live. New drinking fountains. Brian, would like new, drinking fountains, one at the campground, one at the beach. The difference between the ones that we have and the ones he wants are these have the water bottle filler on them.
That's the only difference.
It's the only difference.
Yeah, you still have a drinking fountain,
Yeah.
normal, and then you can also fill your water bottles, which everybody carries a water bottle around these days.
And the current fountains are working just fine.
Yeah.
$4,000.
Well, if we're like at the park, when you look at everybody playing disc golf, they're not gonna run to the water fountain every 5 minutes. I think that was his goal there, is they can fill up their water bottle as they come by. And at the beach, instead of having plastic bottles all over the place, they have their own water bottle instead of creating more garbage. I think that's the goal, to help with litter. And
Well, and I understand that, but again, I think at such point as the existing fountains no longer are working so well, need to be replaced, that'd be a good time to do it. As I kind of look at it, that's $4,000 that I'd like to leave in the taxpayer's checkbook, so to speak. Now,
Is there anything that I know it wasn't budgeted for, but last year? It may not be, but is there any extra in their operating costs right now? Where they have money to do this or no?
Yeah, we do. And I questioned, Brian about this as well. I also questioned him about, yeah, I mean, can we sell these things?
And
Uh,
that's
well, as I understand it, we got a gap to try to cover when we do our next budgeting session.
for 26.
Yeah, and I think for right now that I think this wise choice would be to just stay the course.
Maybe hold it off for next year when we're planning on investing in the campground and park system. Maybe that would be a better time to,
And if the park would be cash flowing themselves too and showing a profit, you could pull some of that profit out for upgrades somewhere such as this. I know there's no revenue coming off the beach, but if they're functioning as they should, current ones, I would say caution on this, or error on the side of being cautious on spending any additional monies.
I'll move to deny the request.
I think, are you still in discussion?
Yeah. I'll get a motion in a second.
Motion on the side.
I'll second your motion, Mike.
Okay. Good. Go ahead. I was just, to be, and I agree, okay, this is the rebuttal, just to add to. Has he or has anybody that's been involved with this dialogue looked at any underwriters? Sometimes people, you get these people that are out there throwing the discs. I don't know what demographic it is. You get a lot of kids, high school, whoever, but then there's some other people. If this is something that they really want, sometimes you gotta put your money where your mouth is, right? And so, before maybe we just forget about it, maybe we at least take a month or whatever it takes until we revisit. Just say, can we creatively fund it, find resources, either underwriters, whether that's a grant or just local underwriters, somebody to chip in. And, or I was gonna bring up when you touched on it, if is there a market for, because the current ones work, right? That's the whole idea. That's why we're pumping the brakes on this, is that if it's not broke, don't fix it. But if we can resell them, so now you're bringing in a little bit from the sale of the current ones, get some underwriters pretty soon, potentially, the idea is just to break even and pay for itself. I just wanted to throw that out there. Because I do know, because I'm at the school, every student and faculty,
I was gonna say,
there's not a person that walks around that doesn't have a refillable water bottle, especially if you're out and about, and so the reasoning is there. I understand the finance might not be, so I'm with you on that. I just wanted to make sure that we're just checking all our boxes before we just forget about it, because it's a good idea. Hey, I'm that guy. Anyways, that's all I just wanted for discussion's sake. If,
I hear what you're saying, Bill,
Oh, yeah.
and what you're saying makes sense. I guess I'm looking at it that my first responsibility is to the taxpayers of Monaga, and knowing that we're still in a precarious financial condition, we still have a gap to cover in our budgeting process that is growing, that I think it would be fiscally responsible to defer spending the money at this point.
Yeah, I would see this as more of a want than a need.
Well, like you said, maybe they'll get some donations together.
I mean,
Maybe
you're
we can find a grant
moving in the right
for-
direction, but
Find a grant for it. And I said, next year when we do the big park,
right.
spending on it, maybe we can work it in. So we got the motion on a second to deny the quote for now. Any more discussion? All those in favor of denying, say aye.
right,
Aye.
Both same sign. Deny.
Next up. Liquor store.
You just got sick all of a sudden.
You have anything you want to discuss or? That's, we got the report.
And council, the way, the easiest way to read this in total is just lay the pages out next to each other. And then that'll be the whole document.
Good.
That's
very good.
So,
Any questions or concerns on the report?
hey,
Need to set a date for, date time for a committee meeting. So we can discuss those beer cave specs. Since Heather's here, you have any days you can't do it, would like to do this?
Will be gone June 20th through the 24th.
We have anything available this week, no? I'd like to move this as quick as we could so we can get it out for quotes. We gotta spec it all out so we can do a sheet on it.
We'll be out of town tomorrow and probably Wednesday, but I'll be back in town Wednesday.
Heather, you've got 3 Thursdays? And then you got
Right.
pull tabs?
I work till 3. This Thursday, I don't work pull tabs, but I have to be back by meat raffle of something. Yeah, Rachel will be there.
It's about 4 o'clock work for you,
We'll make a move.
4 o'clock on the 12th. And then the other, just a heads up on that, we'll be kind of looking at what you think you need inside lighting wise and whatnot, anything special, so we can spec stuff out for. Just good.
hey, public works report. I just want to lead off with, Ron has been receiving a lot of phone calls about, grading. And when is, magnesium chloride going to be put down? So we do contract for grading. A lot of that depends on weather as well. All the roads are going to get tended to, it's just a matter of time. Right. Into his report, hired Julian Kinnunen. Yes, thank you. Started June 2nd. I've heard great things. Reclaimed the road edge of 11th Street, having gravel hauled onto it. Roads are going to be graded and sodium added, waiting for rain to grade correctly.
It's not sodium, it's magnesium chloride.
Yes, it is magnesium. Aluminum sulfide being added to secondary pond for discharge. Aluminum sulfide basically makes the solid sink. Working on flushing hydrants. Consumer confidence report was printed and being published in the newspaper on Wednesday, the 11th. Purchased the 2018 Chevy 3/4 ton. Comes with a topper. And then he does have a couple action items here. The first one being shop lighting. I have been back in the shop recently, and this was one of the things that was identified as a potential OSHA issue, where we could be fined due to improper lighting. And walking around back in there, it definitely could use a little upgrade in the lighting.
Is it this type of lighting or?
Shop lights, LED. LED shop lights.
And yeah, they do need to be covered. They're not covered right now.
Do we need, you're saying more lighting?
Yes, there does need to be more lighting.
Yes.
And he has a quote.
And will that bring it up to OSHA
This
standard?
is the last thing we need to do.
Yeah.
So
It'll be up to OSHA standard. won't it?
yep, we fixed the concrete pad, the new grates are installed and, yeah, new lighting. And then we're done. And I believe he just had the inspectors up here from League of Minnesota Cities. I can't remember exactly when. I didn't get any negative feedback, so I think we're on the right track right now.
Were they from the loss prevention? team?
Yes, yes, they were.
How much did they spend on the 2018 Chevy 3/4 ton?
It was just 26.8, I think it was just under the
After
27
the
that we
trade?
approved. Yeah,
26.8 after
Yeah.
the trade?
Yes.
so we had approved up to 27, so I'm glad I did that little. A little extra. All right, can I get a motion to approve quote from Sean's Electric, $3,400 for the shop lighting?
So moved. Second.
Yes, and Mike. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carries.
Next, and I know that the council will be familiar with this, quote from Greener Tomorrows, and these are for flowers for the planters. We have 10 planters and we're ready to get some flowers out in the city.
Were the liners for those planters ever replaced? That was the issue last year and the year before.
So we had 12, we're up to 10.
And that's what this quote is for 10 planting.
Yes.
You had 10 new liners,
We have 10 service planters and that's what
which
this quote
was
is.
serviceable liners.
Yes.
And this quote is to fill those 10.
And we looked at the,
Let's get a motion second before we do discuss.
I'll make the motion.
I'm sorry.
All right, so now discussion.
Sorry.
You agree.
on these, I'm not opposed to the flowers, but I think we should look at, so I know the city of Wadena has, they had their planters out there, they had, you know, different businesses or people adopt the
Not the plan.
planter and they can plant how they want. I think we should start looking at doing that. Just put it out there for next year. That way we're not spending the money on the flowers. I'm not opposed to flowers. I just think that, you know, the businesses that have the planters on their corner or any other business that wants to, should look at, adopting those planters and they can plant
Who's
it how
gonna
they want.
maintain them?
It would be that
who's
business
gonna
owner.
water them?
It would be that business owner, just like the city of Wadena, their planners, it is that, the person who adopts that planner does all the work on it. Flower,
How's that work out in the heat of the summer?
they water it,
I've
everything.
never been down.
Yeah, those businesses that have adopted them, they water them, they plant them, they take care of them. The only thing the city does is they put them out and take them.
So your number
ones that are-
goes by with their water tanker and gives them a drink.
We do that here, yeah.
But it's just throwing it out there that
You could probably, if you wanted to, you could probably spearhead that, so you could find people. that are more
yeah, I just say we don't have to do it for now. I mean, it's dropped.
Hey, for next year, maybe,
Yeah.
get out in front of it.
Yeah, next year, I think we should
Yeah.
look at it. Why not cause I know they tried it a couple years ago and I don't think there was enough of the interest in it, but
I've had several people approach me and say, hey, there's no flowers in our planters.
yeah.
It's coming. It's coming.
I think I see one with the name Omega Hardwoods on.
Hey, quick question on that in the discussion. Couple pros and cons. One, you have community buy-in, right? So that's fun. It's creative. They can be as glamorous or as simple as they want. Now, on the flip side of that is you don't have continuity. So when you're cruising through town, instead of having, you know, consistency, continuity, and that look, you know, you lose that when you give individuality. So it just depends on what you want, what we're looking for. Apparently, up to this point, it's been
pretty
continuity, right? So now we're looking to change. Not opposed to that. Just make sure we understand that
It's just a thought. I mean,
no, I think it's a good idea. Why not? If we
That
can
way-
do it.
Make a contest.
Yeah.
Who's got the most beautiful plant?
that,
Right, yeah.
like I said, I'm not opposed to the flowers or buying flowers. I just think that to spend our money otherwise, other ways, you know, if the city wants to adopt one of the planters or, you know, do that.
I guess my question is then, if you said there's 10?
Yep.
Okay, there was 12?
There's two of them are need repaired.
Okay, so of the 10, now, at this point next year, we've got 7 committed establishments that want to adopt. What do we do with the other 3? Either don't put them out, we put them out and bring them back every year?
I think they,
Yeah,
did
they get brought out in the winter, or brought back,
Or do
put out
we-
in the spring and taken out in the fall.
I see.
I think we want to keep the 10 myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really want to keep it.
So then the city would pick up the difference, like we would then have Greenwich
I
Miles
was saying,
do the other 3?
we want to
Or
have
whatever.
Yeah.
some continuity to it.
Well, I think that's a discussion we can save for next year.
But that would have, it would have to be brought out or brought up earlier in the spring, not
Sure.
in June,
Right,
you know.
yeah, just a couple of
Why don't you
details.
put that on your radar,
Get after it.
Yeah,
bring it up.
yeah, I hopefully I remember it for next year, but.
It's on you.
Hopefully I remember, but yeah, no, it's a thought. It's, you know, like the CNC could grab one or whatever, you know.
It's fun. I like being creative like that and,
Yeah.
you know, giving the business owner some buy-in.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cause I know the one at when there was one at the when my mom owned the restaurant, there was one right next to it. When I was mowing, I found myself picking weeds and, you know,
Sure.
so,
Maintaining it.
yeah.
You're talking, you got experience.
Yeah, it wasn't by choice.
We're gonna go with it this year though.
Yeah, so the motion is to approve the quote from Greener Tomorrow's in the amount of $773.40. I got Derwin and Mike for a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carries.
I need to go up there, or can I sit here? Or do I need to be up there? So you can have these two. Sit here, you go. I think she's gonna share
Oh, yeah.
her screen too, so.
You want some more chairs for
You want me to, did you say you want to be up there?
Oh, you're okay there. Well, I know you got your books spread out. You're
Yeah,
okay.
let those two go up there. And you want them to go first because I do my financials or just, I could give mine quickly.
Yeah. Right. Those are cool.
Are we gonna talk about the project? Is that what you got?
Yeah.
These guys through?
So this is Todd Hagan from Alberts.
Yep.
And Nathan from ICS. And
See you guys. Yeah.
she made it. And Tuan from World Architect, so search with ICS.
Can you hear us?
What was your name again?
Nathan.
Nathan?
Madam, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can imagine you, but I can hear you.
Yeah, so I had
Yeah, I don't know where you're at. Okay. Well, we can see her. Let me see if I can get the scan going.
So I can go over that. I mean, I'll just go over mine quickly and then, it's just, our census today is 58. I'm last one was reported to the board at 57. We had a positive month, for, April again, or sorry, literally, which financials did we just do? April. So I had to think about it. So we had a positive financial, statement. Let's see, I'm trying to look over quickly. So yeah, I mean, we did discussion, had discussion regarding the building update. And, that's why today, you know, having Todd had sent the email, that some of you might have read, it was really hard, like a lot to understand.
Stood at the back and we're forward.
Yeah.
About working.
So, and then Nathan had reached out to him. We had conversation about this and that, you know, it'd be good to get him involved in it. And obviously had a conversation with him prior about it. So that's why we just decided to bring the two of them in and to talk about it. And the audit and having an audit today was really good as well because Derwin, you know, you asked the question that if you hadn't brought it up, I would have, because I had that discussion with the auditors as well, just prior, and had gotten that 240 days of cash on hand. to 40 days. So if they say we have 240 days and we need 120, it's pretty simple math to say that we have like about 3 million that we could use if we were to keep that 120,000 cash on hand. So anyway, 120 days, sorry, of cash on hand, we would have about 3 million to use. Actually, so I had done this just a little calculation thing here on if we were to, if a bond, and I have no idea what interest rate bonds would be, so,
You're close.
is it
Yeah.
about 5?
Pretty good.
So, actually, I don't know why.
Is that based on deal revenue, on a revenue bond or deal revenue?
Well, it's tax exempt and it will vary a little bit from a GO bond to a revenue bond. So that looks more like the GO bond there, the 527, kind of blended between a 20 and a 40 year, kind of somewhere in there. Yep.
And based on Monogah's bond rating, that
We wouldn't get it rated.
number would
We wouldn't get it
It'd be a
rated.
non-rated.
You're a little low right now. We're trying to get that back up. So we'd go non-rated. Yep. It wouldn't be worth getting a rating in the B category. I think we'd just
Right.
let that be.
wouldn't end up anywhere. So
Nope. It's probably better just going non-rated, I would believe. Yep.
So that calculation I did there was just if we were solely looking at having enough, if there would be enough revenue to pay for the bond itself and just the bond itself. The first calculation saying if we were to borrow the 9.2 million, we would have to, at the least amount in the 20, I don't have it in front of me, but 20 years or 30 years, our rent would have to be around $2,500. If you were going to go and put the 3 million into it, and then we have a little bit more room there and our rent, like I said, I gave my papers away, but about $1,700. Is that what I have on there?
Yeah.
That our rent would be for, that we would have to charge for rent just to pay back the bond payment.
Yep.
There's those other fees in there. The other bottom things are more like for profit and loss, what it would look like. Bond payments don't come in profit and loss. They don't show on your profit and loss statements. Of course, you need the cash flow for the bond, but you don't need it to show it on your profit and loss. So anyway, that's just a calculation and kind of gives an idea. If we were to use that money, our apartments would be more affordable. I mean, and if you're looking at it at a true business sense, I don't know if it's something someone would go into saying, we're going to put 3 million down and in 30 years, we're not going to recoup that money. But if you're looking at it as a community, and is this something that we need to do? They probably can talk better on that. Todd probably can talk better on that than me, but that's just kind of my highlights of reporting on that. So I'll let them go from there.
Laura, real quick, Nathan Norton.
That's me.
Oh.
I thought it might be easier if I just share my screen
Yeah.
from here.
what's her name, Brian?
This is
Joanne.
Joanne?
Joanne.
Oh, two.
Yeah,
Mike?
Luann. It's like Luann with a T.
And am I gonna be able to share? Let's see here. So. Is it? There she goes. Right. Well, we already got it. That's just Laura's computer. I think. Sorry about it. Right. Well, we do have a brief. I'm Nathan Norton with ICS. You guys, I think at the last meeting, you guys met Justin Monaga and Nate Henderson, two of the Monaga guys that presented. They're both unavailable today, so you're stuck with me. But we're going to give a brief overview of the project and kind of what the next steps is, and then Todd is here to be the brains on what funding options. And Tuana's going to present what she's presented to. So, quick recap of our team. Tuana's going to do a design update. I'll do a budget update from. In fact, it was Justin Monaga that prepared the budget with our historical database. Todd's going to be speaking on the funding and then some Q&A. So here's just our partners. It's a fancy image of a stool with us, supporting Greenwood and the city of Monaga.
You guys know Justin, Nate, there's myself, and you have not met Damian Williams. He's the project director. So I'm the business development specialist. Nate Hendrickson, local guy, general superintendent, and Justin Moniga, which you met last time. Here's the Wold team that's started working on the project. Tuan is who's on the line that she'll be presenting shortly, and I'll let her introduce herself maybe when she takes over with the presentation. And then there's Todd will give an update at the end here. So didn't know if you were gonna be here in person yet or not. So I had a fancy picture of you, but
It's been a while. Yeah, nice to see myself.
I stole your logo too.
Oh, thank you.
Well, before we get into the budget side, Tuan, I don't know if this is everything you wanted to share, or if you wanted to take over sharing, you could run through some things as well.
Sure, well, this is good. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry to not be able to join you in person. My husband works for Wright County and their board meeting is also tonight, so I have to stay home with children. So, but next time I hope to be there with you and meet you in person. I'm a principal at Wold. I only work on healthcare and senior living projects, and I've been practicing for about 15 years. Wold as a whole has been involved with senior living for a little bit over 56 years, and we do quite a few different variety of levels of care. And so this type of project is exactly kind of the work that we do day to day. Nathan and I met with Laura and Troy, the a little while ago, and we went through their needs for Woodside Manor and your needs to expand the assisted living. I know you have done a few other iterations on this site, but we took a stab at one. Actually, we did two. This is the one I think that resonated with Laura and her team. So this one would yield 20 additional units, and our 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms are a little bit bigger than the ones that you currently have right now. I would say maybe about 20% bigger. And the reason why we're doing so is just meeting higher acuity and meeting demands in the future. As you may know, a lot of the assisted living residents move in at an average age of 82. And so the rooms are a touch bigger to accommodate scooters, wheelchairs, walkers, and all that sorts of support. The 1 bedroom that's shown here is about 770 to about 800 square feet. And then the 2 bedroom is about 1160 to 1200 square feet. So all in all, we were able to add about 20 units. This plan, Nathan, is the one that we updated for Laura actually showed 2 common areas in the knuckle. So we were able to accommodate the same count of units, but allow for 2 common areas. And then you can see the picture on the right there is just a high level massing of what this addition would be. Right now it's a 1-story, and then there's opportunities for more additions in the future. So the other leg up on the northwest corner could be added in the future too. I'm going to pause for any questions from the group.
What are the square footage of the 1 bedroom and the square footage of the 2 bedroom?
Yep. So the blue unit that we're showing there is approximately 770. Well, we designed it between 700 to 800. That's kind of where the market is right now for 1 bedroom. The market for 2 bedroom has been pretty consistent at between 1100 to 1200 square feet. Yours right now, Laura, I don't know the exact number, but I think they're about 500 to 600 for 1 bedroom and then 900 for 2 bedroom?
They're like 660, 600 and something, 6. And then the 2 bedroom is 800 and some square feet.
800. Yeah.
600,
Yeah.
800.
Which again, this is very high level. I should have started with that. We don't have a survey quite yet. We don't have soil borings or any sort of preliminary tests on the site. So this is just a high level feasibility. Can we fit these numbers of unit and also fit in support spaces, community spaces, just the right amount of amenities for these residents in the future. And so this is kind of high level layout, feasibility study of the units.
I got a question for you on the mechanical side of it. Is this gonna be forced air, hot water, heat, electric? And that $9.2 million bid, or what type of heating and cooling apparatus are you gonna install?
Yeah, so oftentimes what we're seeing in this particular type of units has been Magic Packs. Are you familiar with Magic Pack?
Nope.
So it is a combination system that does heating and cooling. And it is unique to each, it's like a 3x3 furnace, type that serves heating and cooling for each of the unit. And that's it. It's just an individual unit or individual HVAC per unit.
It's not quite like a PTAC unit from a hotel. It's a little bit more robust. It'll be on the exterior, or there'll be a specific closet built. You'll see like a chase almost on the exterior of the building in the closet, and each unit will have one. That allows for each unit to have control.
So each room can be thermostatically controlled in that system, so to be duct work feeding each room.
It'll be fed from that Magic Pack.
It's a single electronic.
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah, there's usually a software to the other.
You can get them either way.
So did you look at that? What's what we have in our TCU? Did you look at what that's? Nathan, when we were there, we didn't look at it, but it's very similar to what we have
Yeah, you guys have.
in our TCU right now. We built that.
I think that's what you guys have right now.
Yeah.
Currently.
Soffit air and heat. And soffit.
Yes, yeah, and each room is controlled individually with their heat and
Is it the type that's controlled with the remote?
heat and electric or
I mean,
air conditioning.
it can be a remote, or it can be wall mounted thermostat. And it runs the control over there. Yeah.
Yeah, that system's been around for maybe 15, 18 years, and it's gotten pretty good traction with a lot of housing developments and a lot of senior living housing south. So,
Very, very common on the senior living side.
It's called the Magic.
I call it the Magic Pack. Joanne, do you have other names for it?
it is called Magic Pack. That is the brand name. Yes. There's another company that makes it. I think Napoleon. I think it's the other. There's a lot of companies that make similar type of system, but Magic Packs has quite the command of the business. So
it looks like the estimate is based on about $377 a square foot. Then
374, 375. It's all in. Utilities and site grading. The elevation drops off to the right there. Line east, so there's an allowance for that.
The brick finish.
To add, I think we're trying to match the existing siding from the.
yeah, I mean, we will try to complement your existing exterior. Yeah.
Question. Ryan, this is Todd from Ellers. Just to get a feel for, we call this assisted living, but is it like technically independent living with a shared kitchen? Are we sharing the kitchen with like the nursing home, with the complex? Is that what happens here? Or because there's not separate kitchens in each one of those, right?
It is a kitchen in there. I mean, I think we need to.
It's like an apartment then. Okay, so it's.
Yeah, I think.
With the cafeteria.
similar to your Woodside Manor right now. The units will kind of be set up in a similar way.
So this can be independent.
That was the idea for this to be more of the independent one, and then they can use assisted living if they have to, or when we get to
They
assisted.
can contract for whatever services they want, or they can live
Yeah.
totally independent.
The cafeteria is around this area, which they can use.
Well,
Or that's
literally,
really, or there's a lunchroom, I believe.
Yeah, we have a lunchroom.
It's in a spot.
So there would not be that's, you know, which we have right now and typically about 28, 30. If the dining room space right now would not be big enough to accommodate, like if everybody in the assisted living would need to eat in that dining room and everybody in the nursing home would, but that we had actually, or in the assisted living and everybody in the new, which we kind of thought would be more independent living, but it would be licensed and it would be built as an assisted living because then if that would change. But the common space that was added, like that we would add, we talked about having like a cafe type of thing, some eating area, something with where we could cook or we could prepare food in that area, which it wouldn't be tied to the kitchen, but smaller item things, right? That we talked about for adding in that.
so where would the cafeteria then be, Laura?
So we would keep the main dining room where it's
Yes.
located. So if someone wanted to have prepared food in the main dining room, which was prepared by the nursing home and brought over, they could, but for this area too, we thought there would be, as you walk in, the area there, which would be a space that there could be a small cafe,
Cafe,
like,
and
yeah,
all
yeah,
that, they've been talked about.
right in that end, right, where the angle is right there.
Is that right
right?
with the pink?
So this actually, so this drawing right here is not the updated one,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
what she had said earlier. There's a new one that has another orangish or reddish color space.
Yeah.
Right where that funny shape is, that would be common. Yeah,
Yeah.
so point to the one right below it, where it's a different funny, yeah, that would be common area to space. And then she added another room, another apartment onto the end there to make them even. See how one is shorter than the other on that leg? They would just be even. So it was added onto that to have some common area.
Would there be a community room in this addition? For them to congregate in?
That would be those two rooms.
That common area. would be-
Just that common area would be it. Okay.
This area and that area, right?
Yes.
In the knuckle area.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I took over the share. Is that okay? Can you see
Yeah,
it?
no, I can't see it. Let me stop sharing.
Oh, okay,
There, try sharing now.
I'll try.
Yes, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, so this is where we have a community or dining or any, we can flex it according to how we furnish it. And then we have ample space over here. And the reason why we do that is in the future, if you do want to add a little bit more, we can do a knockout panel, and it's just easier going through a common or support spaces to add rather than going through somebody's unit, so I think we just want to plan ahead for any potential growth. But kind of this is the idea, is that this gives you an opportunity to add more amenities for the residents. And I think Laura, I'll stop share, but Laura is right. So in order for you to do independent living, and then, allow people to age in place, you do have to license it as an assisted living. They can sign a non-service agreement where they just, they just live there and they're kind of cook on their own or whatever. But when they do need that assisted living care, then they will have the care, and the state will require you to provide 3 meals a day and all of the services and amenities. So we're just planning ahead for the best sort of flexibility for you.
Are garages anticipated as part of this, like there is with Woodside Manor?
We talked about garages, and what we would do, but that wasn't added on here, was it?
Yeah, I didn't add garage quite yet. we do need to study the site a little bit and study the parking layout and then where it would be best to locate additional garages and which type of garage you want to see. I think I mentioned to Laura and Nathan and Troy that, we could do individual stalls, kind of like what you have right now. And sometimes people run into them and it's hard to maintain, or a lot of organizations have done kind of a larger, sort of bigger garage, and you can park on, it's like double-sided enclosed garage, and then the residents can park in there and then walk into their units. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but it's essentially a bigger parking structure that's enclosed, rather than individual stalls.
If residents went on assisted living in this facility, they would be qualifying for GRH and all that, most likely. Or South Point, either way.
And that's the thing where you have, there, when you say GRH, and that's housing support service, where there's an assistance, there's a limit to what you can charge. And right now that maximum amount is $11.70. I mean, for somebody who's receiving services, $11.70 plus their services, okay, you get it. But if someone's independent and they're receiving it, so there is we don't have, the county has a limit to the amount that they'll give us housing support for, but we don't have a limit to, we're not saying right now we'll only take private pay people, those that are not on services, because we haven't determined that. We're still profitable, we still are doing good, but there is a point that, especially you have new building, and there might be a point that we say we can't take with services to this area if the rent is $11.70 is all we're receiving when it's costing us what it's costing. So there is that. And for the elderly people and their income, it's a lot less than as people as the younger generations coming up and what they can afford to pay versus the people that are 80 years old right now. Their income was a lot less. Their retirement is a lot less. That's just the nature. It is less than,
well, for
because
this,
wages were a lot less.
for this section, though, we would just be saying 55 plus, correct?
It would still be 55 plus.
I'll keep moving on then. Right to here. So you guys, looks like some of you guys were looking ahead already. So about the budget. So all in, that's the just shy of 9.2. That includes that site work allowance, moving the garage. So the plan has a roundabout type parking area coming up to the building is what we assumed, and then fixing the grading as the grade steps down. So this also includes a contingency of about $660,000 and that's for during construction. And to the right, you'll see that's a snapshot of hard construction only. So that's where we pull from a historical database, and that also has inflation and contingency built into that. So the 374 is the all-in total. That's off of that 24,600 square feet, I believe, is what the facility is. Any questions on without going too far into the weeds? We'd like to have a total complete project. That's that 9.2, where we factor everything. So we're not like a general contractor that's just going to focus on the green type of items. When you get numbers from them, we're bigger picture all in, so you guys can see it from all angles. And also keep in mind when this project does, if it was to become a reality, everything is publicly bid. So everything, you'll get public bids. We'll open them right here. Everything's very open book and transparent. So we're doing our best to estimate, and on bid day, we're ideally all those contingencies are a little bit high and things come in a little bit lower on bid day. And frankly, other than 2021, that was kind of a crazy year after the inflation. We've been able to kind of dial things back in and be on budget with a lot of our public biddings.
I have a question. Did you say, remove the garage? I know that we kind of had talked about that. I don't know if it would have to be removed in this,
Yeah, not in this.
not this one.
Okay, and I do have a $24,000 allowance for it,
Okay.
which isn't a big ticket item, but I do have 24,000 in there. And some of this is pretty conceptual. There's a lot of moving parts to what might actually come by, the drawing that Tuan just went through might be, it's gonna be 8% different than that when we proceed possibly, so.
We do have a lot of room on that east side as far as getting the driveway in there. Parking area, there's a lot of space over there.
Is that all wood frame construction then? Is there
Yeah.
any metal at all?
That's
It's all-
wood frame.
All wood.
Yeah, it's wood frame.
I did sweat anything else for sure. God,
Here I am. It's all right there,
It's all-
right?
it's all-
I'm trying to- That's as good as it gets from Ellers. Just.
give me white ink.
Thanks, Nathan. Laura, and nice to meet you guys. Some of you I've met before, some are new. So, Brett, right? So you've been here a while now. So that's good.
For a year.
Yeah, right. Time flies, right?
Sure does.
So yeah, thanks for being with the city. That's good. I'm Todd Hagan from Ellers and Associates, Public Finance Advisors right out of Roseville. We got a ton of advisors and analysts and all that good stuff. We take care of all the bonding for you guys for years and a lot of cities and townships and counties around you. So you're in good hands. I've been around for 37 years. I'm not retiring yet. Still having fun with this stuff, and it's good to get up here in the Northland and take care of you guys. I'm a Bemidji State grad and stuff, and so I'm all about Minnesota. And we've done some nursing home financings here before with a general obligation bond. We did that when you had a pretty good credit rating with Standard & Poor's back in the day. If the county doesn't sort of own and operate a nursing home, that they give us the GO authority to do that here at the city level. Even though it's a revenue, really kind of supported by the revenues, the general obligation is behind it, which is the full faith credit and taxing powers of the city. So we didn't have to mess around with performance studies and analysis and stuff on the nursing home. It was really based, and the rating was based on just the taxing ability of Monaga, right? So when we talk about general obligation bonds, that's really what the purchaser, whether it's a bank or out into the market or whatever, they're just looking at that payback, right? So if revenues aren't enough, the city will take care of us, right? And a lot of times we do that knowing that there are good numbers behind it, right? So we talked about, and I'm glad we had the auditor on here too, because one of my asks on this is to hire a CPA firm like the auditor to give us a good look at those debt ratios, right? We need to see that study, whether it's a GO or whether it's a revenue only bond. We need to see, you need to see, I need you to see, because I'm working for you, right? I have a fiduciary duty to the city here, not any bank or anything. I just want to make sure that this is right for you folks and we've got enough cushion and all that. We don't bring ourselves down to zero, but I like the idea of a little skin in the game, the 3 million or, less or whatever, just shows that purchaser that, we're serious about this. We're going to pay our bill, right? Otherwise, we're going to lose our 3 million or whatever, right? Tomorrow, and that's no fun. So we did our homework behind this all, and so there's different ways to finance the bond. We can go up for an election. Nobody does that on the city level, right? Schools do it. Where Nathan, I think, runs into Ellers most is school financing, maybe too. Which is all tax levy deals and voter approved, right? So we can always do that to get the general obligation behind it. Or there's a couple other ways to do it, kind of like the nursing home bond we did. But there's a carve out in the law that allows us to issue up to 5 million, like through the HRA, or an EDA. That's backed by the GO of the city, and we have to show 110% coverage, right? So that's why we need those studies and stuff too. It can't come from us. It has to come from, you know, like a CPA firm, somebody that is familiar with assisted living, you know, senior housing facilities like that, can kind of put in give us like an opinion pretty much that we went through this. I've been through, and so so we can do that, and then so we're kind of short 4 million, right? Which is another bond. I did the math on that, and we could loan up to 20 years, which is the max on a general obligation tax abatement bond. And it's 4 million max, 200,000 a year. And then, and that's backed by the, you know, that general obligation of the city, right? So, and that's going to give us the cheapest interest rates, but it's got that risk to it, right? So if, you know, the nursing home or the facility, Greenwood Connections isn't doing very well, then the bondholders are going to expect to get paid through the taxpayers, right? That's better than a mortgage, you know, it's better than all sorts of that stuff you can put behind it because, you know, if you put a mortgage behind it, which we can issue a revenue bond and have a mortgage behind it, like a commercial loan, that's fine. If it defaults, then the bank or whoever, you know, gets the facility and now they've got to kind of deal with it, right? So it's good if it's connected. It's could be bad, right? Like if it's standalone, right? It's probably better than when it's connected, right? So there's all sorts of things that we can do. We can also, I know we've got that bond outstanding still, right, Laura, for a while?
Yeah.
The nursing home. But what we could do too, I mean, the revenues don't just have to come off of this section, right? They could be part of the whole complex, right? So we could share the debt with, you know, the whole thing, right? And I think that helps a lot too. And that's something we're going to have to kind of figure out with the auditor and, you know, the CPAs and figure out, you know, what that might look like too. So there's all, you know, sorts of different ways to do. The other thing too is I suppose you could throw a mortgage on the whole facility, but you know, that would be better backing. And so these are all the things that we need to kind of figure out. You know, number one, what kind of risk the city wants to take, right? What kind of backing you want to put behind it. If it's a geo backing, you know, your rating's pretty low right now, and it's probably gonna be a drag on that, I think, right? Because there's a potential, without having historical revenues, right? Back from, you know, because this is a new project, they're probably going to be looking to that geo more so than the revenues. You know, we might crawl out of that within 3 years or 5 years, and they might not be looking at the geo so much, rating agency, because they'll see the performance of this is okay. Now it's a revenue deal basically. But the other thing is if it's just a revenue bond, you know, it's not going to be on that rating radar anymore, right? So when we do a municipal bond for streets or water or sewer or something, they'll see this $9 million bond as just, you know, pure revenue bonds, just holding its own, and they'll just go, oh, okay, well, that's good. That's off to the side here. You know, we won't even take that into account, right? It's debt of the city, but it's not on the geo. Right? It's not a drag on that. So we're gonna have to make some phone calls, that Standard & Poor's, you know, just to kind of see what the sensitivity is for all this kind of stuff, because we want your rating to get higher, right? Eventually. And we don't want this to kind of bring it down, but then again, we don't want, you know, a 10% bond, right? Either, right? Because that's going to blow us out of the water too. So we'll have to just check on the appetite. I think where I would sell it to though, just to kind of cut to the chase, you know, I'd look at a bank or some banks. It could be one bank, it could be 4 together, whatever. You know, I did a City of Wyndham, a $20 million hospital expansion down there, but lots of expansions to their hospital. We did a revenue bond. A couple banks bought it. And what I'm seeing with the banks is they'll go for the full term, but they'll probably put a 10-year reset, you know, on the rate too, because it's just where they get their money, right? It's just kind of short-term stuff, and they don't want to commit like the public market would commit for 30 years, but a bank seems to be 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. And so there'd be a little bit of an interest rate risk, but like in Wyndham's case, you know, that was at, I think, 5.7%. At the time when the feds, maybe knocked the rate down one notch, right? They popped it up 4 or 5 or 6 times, right? And that's sort of where the banks get their money, and then they increase their rate by that rate. But we figure by the time 10 years rolls by, we'll probably be in a better place anyway, right? I mean, they'll have ratcheted that down, and it'll be like an automatic refi almost, so could go the other way too. So that's the stuff I've got to sort of worry about for you guys. Next time I, would come back, I would try to nail this down a little bit more too with Laura's input, the auditor, to get those ratios down, and then kind of come back with, here's a geo scenario, and here's a revenue bond scenario that's kind of off the radar, basically a fully supported bond by the revenues of the facility. And I think we could take the revenues if push comes to shove. It could be the revenues of we could pledge the whole facility if we feel better about that. But I would sort of start with just the addition, and then I maybe would talk about kind of expanding it a little bit. But that's it's a lot. There's a lot going on here. This is a very complicated deal. It's not like financing a street or something, with a tax levy and assessment or something. Easy peasy. This is revenue bonds are always a little difficult, and there's not one particular place to say here's where we're going to go and we're going to move forward. The nursing home expansion was pretty easy because just because it fit right. We had a good bond rating. It fit within the geo parameters. We had plenty of revenues.
State have the moratorium.
Yeah.
Nursing homes for.
Right. So that one just fit right there, just good, And what's nice about that one is, right, Laura, is that, revenues aren't really pledged to that. So they're kind of, even though they're paying for it, they're sort of free and clear, right? So it's not really a drag on ratios, but we want to make sure that it's not like we have to look at that as what we call parity debt, like all this stuff has to like cash flow, but we want to make sure it does, but it doesn't, it's not going to be looked at like, there's not a bank that owns that says, what are you going to do now? 9.2 million, and what's that going to do to my bond? They're going to go, no, I've got a GO nursing home bond. I'm good. I don't care what Monaga does. It'll get paid. So I don't know if you guys have any questions for me. It's kind of a circular thing right now, discussion, but it's kind of, I want to see more numbers, right? And I want to get those ratios figured out for you. I want you to feel good about the direction that we take it. And maybe we do the geo, maybe we don't. Maybe we just say, hey, there's an appetite out there. We've dialed up a few banks and they're willing to kind of talk. And here's kind of the rates they're talking about for this one and that one. So I think we're going to stay out of the public market. This just doesn't feel like it's a bond that we shoot out there non-rated. And no, I would. I'd squeak on the brakes on that.
With the geo housing revenue and the non-geo mortgage revenue, there you're running up against the income issues. One is 80% of AMI.
Yeah, the revenue one has some of that. The geo one is more like 55 plus, which fits this one.
But that has an income limitation also, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's no income limitation on that one. It's just 55 plus. I think so. Yeah, it's more. It's for the elderly or income not greater than 80% of AMI. So we would go 55 plus probably on that.
When I read through the information getting ready for tonight's meeting, I was going through the email string that you and Laura had been exchanging. And there was a statement there, you led off with it, that really caught my attention. It said, "Hi, Laura. Before I talk about your financing options, I want to say that this is a lot of debt for Monaga to issue and could further downgrade your already low bond rating." And as I consider that risk, I know we have other projects in the city that have to get done. We have deteriorating sewer around the lake with clay pipes that need to be replaced and water lines that need to be rerun. We have needs that have to be met. And if it's gonna lower an already low bond rating, now that's a substantial impact to an elderly tax-paying population of the city. And I'm sensitive to that.
Yep, me too. That's why I lead off with that too, just because I know my client, I know you guys. And I want to get out from under that B rating, right? I want to get you up. So I'm going to look at the GO, but I'm going to talk to S&P, Standard Poor, the rating agency, to see how sensitive they are to something like this, even though it's backed by the revenues that we're, it's got the GO backing, but the revenues will pay for it. So I don't want that to harm us for 30 years, right? So I just lead off with that if this was 2 million, right, that would be a different story. But now that, Laura talks about the 3 million or so, you get that down to 6 point something. That sounds better. Yep, that sounds better. And then it could be that, that the revenue bond route is the way to go, just because multifaceted. There's lots of things going on here, right? This isn't the only project that we're going to be doing, and we don't want this to. We want to keep working on that rating. So, so we want to be very mindful, and that's why, this is a bond deal, but first and foremost, as Ellers as an advisor is your fiduciary, right? So we have a duty of care to you. So it's not. I would rather see no deal than a deal that doesn't work, or a deal that is going to harm you in the long run with your other municipal projects. So that's
I know that targets move throughout time, so I can only talk about a snapshot in time, which was last year. I sat in on the phone call with Standard & Poor's as they talked with city staff and went through financials, went through the audit and so forth. One of the things that Standards & Poor's staff stressed during that, rather forcefully actually, during that phone call, is they did not want to see the city taking on any additional debt. They were pretty adamant on that. Now, that was last year. Whether that position will modify it, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I think also probably more of a concern was, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but it was just the administration was turning around.
That was another.
That was very disappointing to me.
As I said, moving targets.
Very subjective. You're usually pretty numbers orientated, right? With ratios and all this kind of stuff. And this was interesting. They Google, they read everything, how you guys doing? I'm not sure I'm liking all this, what's going on there. I think we'll lower your rating. It was just like, you're kidding me. If you read that report, there's probably more of that than anything else in there, which the trouble is getting that rating up once we're all together here as a cohesive unit moving forward. Now I think it's real difficult for them easy for them to kind of bring us down. In my experience, it's hard to get, they won't pop you up right away to where you were before. It's going to be a little bit of a haul. So I really do need to get a hold of them and talk to them about this. I don't think it's the end of the world going to a revenue route, strong financials, and again, like I say, some skin in the game with that cash. And how we do that is, and we've got probably a free rain on. It's probably not. There's no mortgage on it, right, or anything on the facility, and no mortgage or whatever on it. I wouldn't think. So those are all conversations that we can have with banks going forward to see what they need for security. But you're absolutely right on the additional debt, I think they're talking about, because that's a general obligation bond rating is what that is, so.
I would point out two things. Number one, we had a study done that says we need way more beds than this even, so this is just a step in that direction. And that was a pretty comprehensive study they did. Number two, you look at our school, you were on board when we tried to get that passed. It was a $9 million addition at the time. By the time we got it through, it's almost exactly what we had on the book for 9 million. It was 31.
It was 15.8 million,
It was a lot.
but almost double.
Yeah, it almost doubled. And that's-
After it went down a few times,
yeah, yeah,
It got voted down.
it got voted down and then
And
okay,
it cost them almost
and the
double.
cost keeps going up, yep,
Point being that
yes.
if we, farther you kick the can down the road, the more you pay in the long run also. So we have to weigh all of that as we look at this.
I'm gonna push it as best I can, because you need this, and if anybody in our firm, looks at all the, and we're not like on silos either, so we are a collaborative team. So, I'm not claiming to be the expert in everything, so, I bring in 2, 3, 4 other advisors and analysts, and we get this done for you, and if, we'll see where it goes, and we'll start working on it right away, and I'm happy that the auditor, looked like she maybe volunteered to help with that
That's what I
study,
heard.
because I'd be looking for somebody like that to help out, so that makes,
Have you ever had much success in doing private placement on a non-rated with United Bankers Bank?
they're really good friends of mine there. Yep, they're on the corner of 35 and 494. They're a bank for banks.
Right.
I've got a few things I'm working with them on right now, so that would be a negotiated private placement with them. And what they can do too is they've got a whole network of the banks
Right.
too.
And
And
in turn, farm it out.
Good-
their
good
bond
point.
part.
very close with those folks. I've got 2 bonds I'm talking to them about right now. Yep. So I'm.
And they do have a non-rated appetite.
Yeah, absolutely they do. As a matter of fact, that was kind of their appetite the whole time, and I'm not seeing them bidding in the public market on rated bonds much anymore. They may go in with another underwriter, but I think they prefer exactly what you're talking about. They prefer that private placement, non-rated. Their book of business is for that right there, and they're very fair to deal with. And we've done some of that here in Monaga and some other smaller bonds with those guys back in the day too. So that would definitely be looking at that as well. And so, yeah, and they're underwriters too. So they go out on the public market, but they've also got that connection with their correspondent banks. Like, yep. So I think we've got a good shot at it. If we've got a good analysis coming and good debt ratios and stuff like that, there's quite a few folks I can talk to, and they're all pretty happy just shooting me out some rates and ideas and what they want to do. So it'll take a while longer to do a bond like this than sort of a vanilla street bond or something. This is going to take a few months to do. So we'll hit the ground running. If that's what you want me to do, I'll definitely do that for you. So yeah.
Another thought, and Laura, you would know more. Is the square footage of the size of these rooms, is that something you're on board with, or could they be a little smaller to cut the square footage down?
I mean, they maybe could. I mean, she's just saying what she's seeing is pretty popular and average. And I mean, we don't really have too much for complaints about for the size of the apartments. And the kitchen area could be, dining kitchen area could probably be a little bit bigger, and that maybe is like where that 100 square feet.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate the upcoming crowd, the crowd from World War II babies coming up that are,
Well, you think about the size of the house as
You know,
we
that-
go, and you think about the size of houses as we go, and so I don't
the
know.
question is, are they gonna look for more? Are they gonna look for more?
Probably,
Bigger
looking
furniture.
for more size, yeah, as a size as it goes, yeah, look at house sizes that were built, 100 years ago, like they were 1,000 square feet.
Well, it sounds like you're gonna do a lot more work for us.
Well, I appreciate it. It's good to see you guys. Good to meet you, Brett and everybody. This is good. It's good to be kind of back and moving forward. This will be a a good project for you. I want to see it. I want to see it go. So,
Our audit will be done at the June 30th meeting, so you'll have that information coming to them for our final audit for the city.
so what's your, if you, when would be, would you be waiting on, well, you need to be waiting on me, but would you, if I would be good to go, when would this be like bid out, like over the winter, for next spring and stuff, or tomorrow, or?
Most likely have to be for the next spring.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're gonna have, probably 6-7 months of design to fully design this thing, but that's once funding is secured. Then the full design will go on. We still owe, a cleaner packet that can be, the last item there, item 4, public engagement. I almost don't want to say it because Tuan says it way better, but it's like a sizzle package that gets delivered to the city that you guys, I've been stealing your terminology all the time, Tuan.
Because everybody loves making it.
A sizzle packet, yeah. I do give you credit for it, but I use it all the time now on my, on the street. But we owe you that, and that's something you can go into community with, and it gets blown up in different forms that you can have it on a billboard or a poster at the street festivals and stuff like that. But so the debt capacity study, that's something that needs to get, we need to get going on. So that was a question.
That's kind of like our pre-approved mortgage. That's what I feel at that is like, what can we afford? Is this going to work? I wouldn't start the bond process until, until your bids come in, actually, right? So that's going to be kind of the rub here is unless you think that an estimate is really good, and that's what it's going to be, I typically start a bond with the as bid, plus architectural engineering contingency, what the whole deal. And then I've got my number to go out to try to sell this bond with, right? And it depends who buys it too. They may let us prepay any day without penalty. They may lock us up for a while. So if we bond for too much, then we're kind of sitting on that for a while until we can chip away. And it's not like a house mortgage or a car payment where you can just prepay anytime. There's going to be some concessions here, right? Hey, if we're going to give you an interest rate and this is going to be this kind of bond and all that, we want to make sure that, it's going to be our full $9 million thing for a while that we can count on, right? That's what the bank will say, right? They're not going to take a bunch of this away from us tomorrow, right? Because we're setting our rate and everything, our risk and all that is the bank, because this is what it's going to be for a while. So you're going to be incurring costs and all that kind of stuff before we pull the big bond. So it's something that I think we ought to kind of think about. And it's going to be inefficient. Well, I think Laura could use that $3 million in interim for that, and then we can reimburse her or whatever. We can, pack it. So you could use that in the meantime. But it's very inefficient to issue like a little construction loan ahead of time, because then we're going to do another one. And that's possible too, though. I mean, that's possible too. But so that's going to be, so on these municipal projects, well, it's like schools, right? I mean, they're not going to, right? They're going to get the vote yes, right? And then I don't know when you bid it out and everything, but that could be I'm not sure how the schools work, but in the city world, we wait for the bids to come in, so we really know what the project cost is. So
the referendum world,
what's that? So the referendum world, is it backwards engineering a little bit?
Because you put a concept dollar amount.
Yep.
9 million, pass the referendum for 9 million, and then now start incurring costs on the full design.
Yeah.
And design within the constraints of the budget, which is also what was advertised throughout the referendum process.
So I mean, we could do it like that too, but I don't, in the city world, you don't see that because, in the referendum school world, a lot of times it's like, here's what we've got, now we're gonna reverse engineer it, right? Yeah. So we'll have to just kind of go with that as we move forward and, we can do whatever we need to do. I'm just gonna say that's kind of how it works.
Step one to get moving would be the debt capacity study.
Yep. Kind of what kind of bond we're gonna issue, what the city, what your tolerance is for that, here's what this interest rate might be, here's what this interest rate might be, is it worth it? And then we don't wanna drag our rating
When do you think you would have that information?
tomorrow afternoon. No, just kidding.
Is that Brady Martz or who?
I do.
Yeah, so, yeah, we have to get with that whole performa and debt capacity study first. And then we can kind of back into it after that, so. This is it.
Wondering if there would be any information for the next meeting, months from now or 2 months from now.
Why don't we keep Laura kind of informed and Brett, and then just kind of when we're getting close, we have something to talk to you about, we'll put it on. Yep. Cause I don't know where they are in their year, right? I mean, they're doing audits and stuff still and kind of stuff, so.
So you're saying, like, you're asking for the July 14th meeting?
Yeah, I don't think we'll happen that quick, probably.
See what kind of, who was the auditor that was on there? Amy?
So it's interesting because we didn't have any feedback. Would you say Ashley?
That was Ashley.
We didn't, that's the first time we saw her, so.
Okay.
We worked with John the whole time.
Dawn.
And I had had conversation with John, but she might oversee John, so I'm not sure, but I had conversations with John regarding this, that capacity study, so.
Okay.
We had talked about it.
Well, just keep us in the loop so we know we can keep bringing this information up and moving it along and seeing where we're at. It sounds like we need a whole lot more information before we can do too much.
Yep. Yeah, make sure that it's self-supporting, right? So as much as we know, but it sounds like the demand's here, so that's good news. Absolutely.
Quick waiting list.
Oh, yeah. I think it's probably the perfect storm, so.
Yeah, I was doing that. I've been, kind of filling in for the, housing manager position and for the last couple weeks, and it's kind of, it really shows me how many people are calling to get put on a waiting list and answering calls for it, so, probably put 4 on in the last week and a half that I was doing this, and 4 on the waiting list, so.
With the proposed cutbacks in funding, that's gonna have a significant impact on the debt service coverage.
You mean, are you talking about
Yeah.
home funding?
Yeah,
So they were.
because the numbers you were
projected-
putting out were pretty substantial cutbacks.
Yeah, for the first year, yeah, the projected was 200,000, and over 4 years, yeah, it was 1 point some million.
1.2.
But that's not anything definite yet either. I mean, you did see that our profit was, although some of that was ERA information, actuarial costs, and we don't actually see those dollars, so that's really hard to, but it was close to $1 million, so.
Well, we're all gonna be there someday, so there's a demand for that. I don't see the demand going down for these services.
Any other feedback from the council on the next steps? So
We know where we gotta get yet before we can do much more, get that study done and some more information. And keep having you back until we get it figured out.
yeah. Joanne, did you have anything else for the group? She really is like the expert senior living, assisted living architect, so you guys are lucky to have her.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. No. And then so they additionally.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming. It's so safe. It's-
You did not have a report from the fire department this month?
No, we did not, expect to see them here, at the work session, though.
We should
Did we
approve
want to cover, Greenville report and financials as well?
I went through them a little bit, but we need to just approve them.
Yes.
You want more, you need to say anything else? You have any other questions on?
No, Lord, that's something for the council.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thanks for it.
Informational, gentlemen, you made the corrections from the last time we spoke about the cannabis ordinance. I'm gonna start getting that on the timeline, getting it noticed and start getting that moving to, public hearing. Hopefully, we have this back, sometime in July for the council to vote on and formally adopt.
At Howard's driveway was part of the floor.
That was in there.
And it was talked about sharing with the city in the minute.
Yeah, that's
Do
right.
not have an action memo forward that.
So, I mean, it falls, the first part does fall under the 50,000 to me, or the to approve, but it was, the motion was made on that. We did receive a second quote as well, and that one was 78,000, so wasn't considerably higher.
Why,
So
why so much more?
honestly don't know. So the design thing was handed and said, this is what we want. This, the information that's in there, handed and said, this is what we want and need you to bid on, and this is the bid that we got back. I know.
Who was that second quote? Was that Anderson?
And in the minutes, there was reference to maybe the city and Greenwood sharing cost on.
Yes, so
on
So
the-
one
I was
section,
confused.
one section of that bid was for, the Forest the Road. And,
For the what?
for the road that goes past Greenwood. So not even like the whole thing. So basically, I think it's from the stop sign down to where the asphalt has been already replaced. So for that, and that is the city road, does go through. So
It's a city street.
City Street, yeah, sorry, City Street there. So that's the City Street that goes through there. I mean, they do plow it if we don't get to it first.
I think we have that in our budget this year, do we? That's a pretty good chunk. That's at 18,000
Guessing it's-
separate there.
I'm
right?
guessing it's this year.
Yeah, so do we leave it? Do we just
Yeah.
do it so it's all done and it's seamless and it flows through is better? Do we do it or?
Did the 78 include that 18 or was the 18 in addition to the 70?
I'm gonna pull it up right now. I don't know. I got it today, so. And as I got here, I'm like, oh, I forgot to.
Or that road that you're talking about, that goes from when you down the hill, right?
And then take a left.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Out to the.
so it's not, so we're not talking about going to the left, and we're not
Okay.
talking even about, some of that's already been done to the garage part there. To our garage that goes down to our maintenance garage, not the big brown garage.
Yeah.
But as you go down the hill, we replaced it starting there going forward. The road that cuts over to the Twin Lakes Road hasn't been, we haven't done anything with that, but.
So then your board has not acted on the 78 yet then, right?
The board said. As
Where's
they-
the 78 come from? I'm lost on that.
Anderson.
She just got it today.
That was Anderson. We're not, obviously not gonna go with one that's
Yeah,
$14,000 higher. Is that, this one for, if we did both options on Howard's is 65,600 and it says minus 1,000 if you do both options, so it'd be 64,600.
oh yeah, sorry, that is the total bid price is 76,000,
From
so.
Howard's?
That's why it said, the total bid price from, Anderson was 76,000, 76, but this is still less.
Yeah, the total from Howard's, if I'm reading this right, would be 64,600 because it says subtract 1,000 if you do that second option with it. I guess what it amounts to is what does the council have appetite for? 46,870 is strictly nursing home. correct?
So you want us to split the 18,730 is what you're talking.
If there's a possibility to do that, I mean, if the council, if you have it in the budget to do it. You have the ability to do it,
You're talking about splitting that?
yeah.
Or just fronting the 18, like you're saying it's a city street. Yes,
Or, yes, so, I mean, first off, I think, I'm not sure, how did the board, I mean, they, had worded it that it would be, what was the motion on it?
if it's a bona fide legitimate city street, like any other city street. Wouldn't the city have primary responsibility of it? Correct, I don't know, I'm asking,
But I believe they voted to split it, though, which would be.
but it's not even theirs to split, you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? They're just generously offering up money.
If we did it, if we did it out of what fund would it come, and is the money in the fund?
yeah, the motion was to have the estimate and talk to the city about sharing the cost of the 8 to 18 and 730 option.
So your board would like to do it, and they were just wondering if we would help.
So basically, I think it probably needs to be done, and
And in reality, it's a 17,730 because it says deduct $1,000 if you do both options. In reality,
And as I talked to them, that puts us then, in the last 3 years, we would have replaced all sections. It's about, some of it was 27 years, 20
and it's all.
some years, because it hadn't been replaced since it was built. So we're talking some of it, most of it, as it got replaced, has lasted quite a while. I mean, we got a lot of years out of it. So then that puts us, this is the third section, and to be on a 3-year seal coating, next year, the first section would need to be seal coated again, but puts us on a track for then every year, not having the whole thing seal coated, but just a section each time.
Rotating through.
Yeah, rotating to easier budget.
So if I'm looking at it correctly, the city portion would be 8865. That's 17,730 in reality, minus 1,000.
Well, you're taking 1,000 off the city's part or on the big part?
I like his thinking. We'll take it to the city's part.
Well, usually plus a 250 if you split it. 9,115.
Well,
Plus 500.
we budgeted 17,000 for 25 street and road repair. We spent, about 4,800 so far this year.
What projects are pending though?
Well,
11th Street, we haven't got the bill on that yet.
no. That's gonna go under grading, will be in there.
And 50th.
No, 11th down there.
Plus, laying down the chemical.
And I don't know, if we've been billed for his road yet. Did we get
Yeah,
that bill?
50th.
I-
Township over.
I don't know.
I think I had, according to the bill we had, or bill us from the MCP, it would have been $8,000 for our portion of that. Then I have no idea what it is on 11th there. So we're at, I mean, even if you say that's at 8,000. Yeah. We'd be lucky. You got 16, 17,000 already.
I understand this isn't something that wasn't brought up last year when you went through your budget, did your budget, that there's gonna be, that, you had some in there, but you didn't say this much is gonna be for the nursing home. So I fully understand that you may not have the money there. It's only a discussion. Can you, maybe next year you can put some of it in there, year after.
I mean, would you move forward with the project and do it? With the understanding we budget for it next year, is that what you're thinking?
Or years to go, yeah. I mean, just, if I don't wanna, as Bill said, if it's something that, yeah, the city should be taking care of this, should be on the city, but obviously. I mean, as we've had payment in lieu tax that so it's like, we're gonna take from this pocket to put to that one, so, you don't have the money to pay for it, it's coming from, we had higher payment in lieu taxes. And those things, so. The city doesn't have it this year. Well, I think it would make sense for us to complete it instead of leave a portion on, that's not complete. It,
No, I
it,
agree
it
with you.
cut cracks and, we get potholes and going down the hill, we really don't, we haven't had a pothole there for years, we need to make it seamless and try to get rid of that.
Yeah, right. I think that probably all in favor of doing it, right? Just what, now your comment, would you move forward with it and then we would budget it next year? What does that mean? It would mean that like you would pay for it and the city would reimburse? How does that
It
work?
would kind of, yeah.
Okay,
We gotta think about our.
I just didn't know what you meant by that.
We're already trying to trim on our next year budget. So we gotta do
I don't
that.
think we're gonna get it to zero.
Something.
I made the comment before, and before we get too far down the river, I just want to really make sure that there is accountability to, if it is I'll say it again, a legitimate city street on the map, if it is our responsibility, it's generous for a city entity to say, hey, we'll cover half. They don't have to cover anything. I mean, they can have a crappy road too, right? They're trying to get away from that. But on the other hand, for us to just completely pass the buck because we're trying to rectify years of poor budgeting and spending, and what I mean, we're trying to get things back on track. However, there are real life issues happening on our city streets, and so I just wouldn't feel good about.
But the
Pass it.
other time, Bill, it's a city entity. So if the city's short of money and does it, the city turns around and says, no, entity, give us this amount of money. So.
Oh, I know. It's not like she said, I don't want that out of it. I'm just wanting to make sure that there is
I want to point out that
integrity.
if there was a big pothole, right, what's our fix? We're not gonna replace the whole road. We're gonna go stick a cold patch on it. Way cheap. Right answer, wrong answer, that's our answer.
Right. And I don't know. I know the street, but I haven't been down it.
Yeah, it's Murray Avenue. On that map there. And then Sable Street is the one that goes across to,
Right, cause otherwise what you have to do, your little lower parking lot and your little upper parking lot and
yeah.
kind of piecemeal.
And there's that gravel piece between, or the piece between, because we put the one in, then there, so it would be completely asphalt, I think this is leaving the one piece that was done, how many years ago? When we did the building. So there was that one little parking lot, the
Yeah.
pieces, moving those two pieces, we think that's it. The rest of it's replacing and taking out and putting asphalt in the center. There's a little bit of gravel. So anyway, the total cost for this, would you say it was 65?
64.6. And if we split that minus 1,000, it would be 91.15 for the city. To split the cost on that second option.
But you said that they're at this point, because other bills haven't come in regarding roads and whatnot, but at this point, there is tangible funds budgeted.
Sure is.
Okay. I'm not trying to dig a hole, no pun intended here, bad roads, but
What were you saying was the city's obligation again?
If we split that second option, the city's obligation is 91.15. Somebody wants to put a motion on the table, we can have more discussion.
I think the timing this would be the time to do it while they're doing it. We'll give a good curb appeal too, as you drive in, you're not gonna go across something. I think I know where you're coming from.
I go that. I feel like you're.
But then getting back to, where are we gonna find the money to offset that?
this is like,
Right, well, we don't, well, that's what we don't know yet. We don't have those bills in from either one of those other, that project that Blueberry sprung on us. But we hadn't budgeted for.
That's why I reached out to you. I wanted you guys to talk about it because it caught me off guard too.
Yeah, we had no clue. So there's around $8,000 like that.
And that's 350th going towards your
Right.
That's what-
7 on
We're responsible for
mile.
half of the first.
Yeah,
Would it be prudent perhaps to just table this until we get the firm numbers in, so we know where we're at?
When's Howard's planning on doing this?
They said this summer, but we really need to get on their books and I'd like it to be done. I would like it to be done by the time we had our anniversary,
Yeah, it would be nice.
by
to-
August this year.
Well, that's in August.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
put us,
so we get
but we've had it done later.
Bills in by then.
But if we don't get on the
They
calendar.
get August and say to get them. So, I mean,
Oh, they're gonna do it.
Can you swing it,
Their
on your cash flow?
yeah,
Why don't you just go ahead and do it and then we'll try to help you out if
Yeah.
we can, okay?
that's right.
also, yeah,
Yeah, I
like second that.
Yeah, I think somebody's for that.
Make a motion to allow more to move forward with Howard's driveway. Well, doing both options
Is that for the
What-
city to share or what?
to share at a later date.
Or later? Okay.
And I'll second that.
So it's,
And then we can figure out our purse.
Yeah.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. There you go, Warren.
Thanks for reminding us,
You're
Michael.
welcome.
Bills, budget, year to date, investment report, bank securities pledge. I do not have the most current bank security pledge for the month of May in yet. I honestly expected it in the mail today. It will be, on the work session.
I won't make it at the end of the month, so. Work, no work, it's scheduled and I don't feel like you should.
So we're looking to pay the bill then?
Yes, sir.
Batch is listed on this action memo for a total of 149,733.44. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Good.
Now I have a couple of questions. First question I have, Brett, is why the financials, why is it only through March? I mean, why aren't we like looking at April?
Which one is that?
What was in my board pack?
I got May and mine on page 1.
March their money,
Should have.
March
the most-
2025. The
Should have.
whole pack.
Oh, yeah, there's some March in there too.
Is that the budget year to date? I apologize, council. If you don't hit, if you don't hit on the chart of accounts page, I could show you. If you don't hit the thing where it brings it up to date, it will print off what is on there. I apologize. I'll have the current one in your
You
inboxes.
should have been looking at May, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So it's actually, we're looking at May, but it's actually been.
No.
March.
It's actually March. Yeah. Yeah, those are correct. Yes. Yes, I will get that PDF over to you immediately.
And the other thing I had is I had a phone call from a area resident who asked not to be identified, and I said I wouldn't identify the person. The person was kind of confused why they were not receiving electronic notice of open meetings within the open meeting timeframe. The May 1st, planning and zoning, this person said they received it on Tuesday, April 28th. That does not comply with open meeting law.
Did we?
On Thursday,
Yes.
on the Thursday, the June 5th meeting, this person did not receive it until June 4th.
Yes, it was.
That does not comply with open meeting law.
I would correct you on that. This is not a case of open meeting laws. We have all these meetings.
I know
posted.
they're posted, but
That's the law. They have to
my
be posted.
understanding is that electronic notices also have to comply with open meeting law.
It's a courtesy that we send them out. If we're posted here and we're posted over there and it's on our website, that's all the legal posting we need to do. People ask for this and we send them out.
I mean.
But it does not violate the open meeting law.
And I do send the emails out.
Minnesota City.
I do let them know that at short notice, it does go out.
These electronic notifications, what are they? They're emails?
So
Yes.
I would say that to solve that,
Just anybody?
I would email them the copy of our yearly meetings. And then the only thing that would change is if we have committee meetings,
Well, don't you send out the agenda at the
planning
same
and
time?
zoning and all that is already pre-set.
Do send out the agenda as well. Yes.
I think that would solve. some
But the
of those.
agenda doesn't have to be sent to,
You're saying that's courteous too, that's just a courteous,
it doesn't have to have that open meeting, need to open meeting law just sent out to them.
just the date and time? of the
And
meeting.
then this person also said they did not receive the notice of Greenwood connection for the May 28th meeting or the April 28th meeting.
Those on our website.
I
Do you have those on your own? Are they on your own website, those, your regular meeting dates?
They're supposed to be, they're on the city, but I don't know on those ones.
Check with the league and see what they say on that, because I want to be sure. I mean, at $300 potential liability per violation, and the city can't pay my defense, yeah, I want to be perfectly sure we're on solid ground on that. There's no wiggle room on that one.
Yeah, it's worth checking into. When you read the open meeting law, it's that the meeting must be posted.
Publicly?
Yeah,
We got it here,
access.
we got it at the post office, we have it on our website. But I would clear some of that up. I think I would, anybody that's on that list to receive, I would send that out to them. You know, there's that made anything on it. And see what the league
Does
says.
your schedule Greenwood connection plan?
I don't have.
We talked about that, like, okay, we can keep it on the, remember we said we can keep it the fourth Monday, although because
And
of,
it's,
Memorial Day, it couldn't be that Monday. So we're gonna keep it on the fourth Monday and.
Can you email me your schedule?
It's on there.
It's not, the Greenwood Connection's not on here, but.
No, because those meetings are specific to
For this
these
chamber,
chambers.
yeah.
Yes.
You send out the Greenwood connection notices or do you, Laura?
Yeah, he's.
Yeah. Yes.
But all this would have to say is, in that the location is Greenwood connection and it still could be on there.
So we're gonna go to closed section pursuant to Minnesota statute 13B.05 subdivision 3A to evaluate the performance of Laura All Greenwood connections administrator.
And just for some house cleaning, we're going to end the stream now. Adjournment will happen off stream and that is it. I will be departing right now.
You did want to call the